Tomadores de decisiones, nos encontramos en el segundo día de Handicom y estamos con un invitado muy especial. Se trata de Sajid Mohamedy. Él trabaja en una empresa que se llama NISUM. Vamos a preguntarle en inglés de qué se trata y cuál es la importancia de los datos, porque el día de mañana en el cierre va a llevar a cabo una conferencia al respecto. Sajid, first of all, welcome to this interview, to this space. We can talk about it.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
The same, it's a pleasure. Let's talk about the power of data. What is the importance of data in public and private sectors? Can they change their structure towards analyzing, towards managing different problems?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, huge area of opportunity, right? When you talk about data and what they can do, there are certainly opportunities to revolutionize all aspects of public and private sectors, how the two interact, how they function internally as well. I think it's important to recognize we have a lot of data, right? So data is not the challenge. And in fact, most organizations, be it public and private sector, are hoarding tons of data because for so long we've been told
Yes.
data is oil, right?
Yes.
And we need to make something amazing out of it. I think it's how we harness that now, right? And what organizational structures we create. So, to your question, internally, building organizations that are data centric, right? That have the mindset of being driven by data, being comfortable with data recommendations that are contrary to what you might otherwise take action on. It's very easy when data validates what you're thinking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the data says do this, and then you do it, and it feels great. It's much more complicated to look at the data and say, oh wow, this is different than how we would otherwise approach the problem, but we're going to do it anyways because we trust our organizational structure around data, we trust the data, we have a mindset shift. So I think that is really critical when both the public and the private sector start thinking about how they're going to harness their data.
Colombia, in that matter, has a goal, particularly Colombian enterprises, to digitalize all their assets. Is that the first step towards managing data?
Certainly. I mean, if there are opportunities to digitize organizations and agencies, certainly should. But I would venture to guess, and this is something that would need validation, is that there's probably a lot of data already in systems and sitting in disparate systems, and maybe not being activated, maybe not being brought together or leveraged in a dynamic way. So I think it's important to have parallel streams, right? While organizations in Colombia are digitizing data, they should also look around and see what they already have and how to make the most of it.
Nowadays, there are a lot of services towards data, and one of them is towards data centers. Do you think that data centers can generate another path?
Well, I think there's a lot of different ways to look at the data, how you're going to manage it, right? Of course, you have to leverage data centers and you have to leverage external providers. I think any conversation around managing data has to include cloud, right? And how you're going to have a cloud strategy. Is it going to be a multi-cloud strategy, a single cloud strategy? Where the interaction with the cloud happens, what type of service layers you're creating, what type of functionality that's going to unlock. So I think it's a bit broader than the data center, what they can offer. It's how an organization or an agency or what have you wants to realize their data vision, right? So much of this comes down to where are you trying to go, and you kind of back into that based on that.
Tomorrow, you're going to be talking about the power of data. And I want to ask you something. Data-driven is the key to unlock that power?
Certainly, it's a big component of it, right? Being, as I said, it's a mindset shift, right?
Right.
And that involves many different attributes, right? How you collect the data, where you're putting the data, how you're accessing the data, what type of different organizational units are interacting with that, using data as a product, right? Thinking about data as a product, giving it a P&L,
Yes.
right? And having true ownership of that, and empowering those data teams. So, I mean, certainly unlocking the power of data as a concept requires that you are data driven.
Right.
Now the question is, what does it mean to be data driven? And what does it mean to say you're data driven but actually end up taking decisions that are contrary to that?
Yes.
So I think a lot of it has multiple layers to unpack, and that's what some of the things we're going to be talking about tomorrow in terms of the different components of being data driven, the different components of what an organizational structure needs to look like, and some ideas on how to get started on that path.
I have a final question for you. Do you think that clear out the data, clear out the information is a good step also for empowering an enterprise?
Yeah, and when you say clear out the data, do you mean cleanse the data, or do you mean segment the data?
Yeah, segment the data.
Yeah, I think we have to be okay with some level of noise and ambiguity in the data. So, there's obviously a holy grail of having perfect data structures, organized in very perfect ways across an organization. But the reality is, I believe we won't get there because there's just too much inflow of data from so many different signals, so many different parts of the environment, both internal and external. So you have to be able to make decisions in the absence of great structure and great organization. To the extent possible, organizations should, of course, segment data and cleanse it and make sense of it. But you also have to use concepts of things like data mesh and data fabric, right, that allow you to work in a very noisy environment where the amount of data is going to be just, continue to be massive,
yes.
And yet you can still take action despite that. So, that's how I would think about leveraging data, and I wouldn't treat it like a prerequisite, like until we get this done, we can't move to the next step. There have to be parallel streams playing so that at the end of the day, you're realizing some vision around your data. And this is something that, we talk a lot about with our clients is think about your data vision, right? There's a lot of people think about strategy and think about the different tactics you're going to use. But what is your organization or your agency or your country trying to accomplish as a kind of a North Star? And that allows you to back into the various streams that you'll work on, including paralleling some of these things that we're talking about.
Sajid, thank you very much. And we'll be on your conference.
Thank you very much. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Sajid.
Thank you.